We're talking trades on today's Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Happy to have you guys along for the ride on today's show. NFL draft is over. Of notes here, before we get into some 10 different trade ideas and targets I've got here. Cowboys, have extra 2025 draft picks. They're going to have projected 4 additional comp picks in the 5th and 6th rounds. 3 extra roster spots right now, which you can make more if you need to. They have, for the time being, $4 million in cap space. That number will grow as they get the $9.5 million from Michael Gallup off the books. So they will have salary cap space, knowing they're going to want to roll over maybe $8-ish million of that because that's how they do business. So before we get to my names, put your Cowboys trade targets in the comments of today's show. Who do you want the Cowboys to go out and acquire? Sound off in the comments section. Let's go to a couple receivers. I won't go more than 2 on any one position because we did one of those already. Treylon Burks, I think, is a name to keep in mind here. To be blunt, he has been bad. He has struggled in 2 years with the Titans. He is now wide receiver 4 on their depth chart. He is behind Calvin Ridley. He is behind DeAndre Hopkins. He is behind Tyler Boyd. He's due for if the Cowboys trade for him, $4.6 million over 2 years. That's not that bad at all. It's a little bit more than what you're going to have to pay Jalen Tolbert. That's fine from a money perspective. It's really, do you still want the player? Remember, Dallas had a top 25 grade on Burks the year he came out and went 18th overall to Tennessee, mind you. But he's been bad with the Titans. I'm sorry, there's no way around it. He, frankly, has been a bust so far. But much like the trade for Trey Lance, Cowboys had a high grade on a player. They said, let's explore this idea. Let's bring him in. 2 years of development and see what happens beyond that. You do something similar there for Brooks. I'd say it costs you, or Burks, maybe it costs you a 5th round pick. Maybe that's doable for all sides involved there. Next up is Alec Pierce, the wide receiver from the Colts. And I didn't put him on our last receiver conversation. I'm going to go a little bit higher in terms of the aim on this one. He has the things that you don't have a lot of on this roster, namely speed and vertical threat ability. Now, I think he's lost his job to another 2nd-round pick in A.D. Mitchell. I think it's Pittman, Mitchell, and Josh Downs as the big 3 in Indy. He's pretty cheap, 2 years, $2.91 million. I think the trade cost would be a bit more expensive because compared to Treylon Burks, he's basically doubled his production in the 2 years he has been a member of an NFL franchise. I liked Pierce coming out. Now, he has a lot of the traits that I tend to like in receivers. The size is there, 6'3", 211, 4.41 40-yard dash. For a team that doesn't have many obvious, speedy vertical threat receivers, maybe Ryan Flournoy can be that guy. Pierce does stand out to me as an intriguing name if the Colts are willing to deal him. I'm not so sure they are because he is pretty cheap and he'd at least be receiver 4 for them. So will the Cowboys make a trade before the season? 1 for yes, 0 for no. It is the pinned comment on today's video. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Ignore the ad. Go type in 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let's go to DeMarvin Leal. A common trend on today's video, players who have not quite lived up to expectations. Former 3rd-round pick out of A&M, has not played at the level you would have liked him to play. He is a former 3rd-round pick. He does give the team depth at a spot they need depth. That's defensive tackle. And Pittsburgh has lots of it available. 2 years for $1.3 million a year. Very affordable for a team like Dallas. The production is simply not there, though. 29 tackles, 3 TFLs, a sack, 4 PBUs. This is also a potential name to monitor depending on what happens with the Steelers come roster cut-down time. They've added players. They've added Dean Lowry. They drafted Logan Lee. The numbers might be on the wrong side for Leal, so I think you get him pretty cheap. I didn't expect to put Draymond Jones on this list. I changed my tune when I saw the report from Monday, or Sunday, whatever day the report actually came out, but I saw it on Monday, that the Seahawks are trying Draymond Jones at edge rusher, even though he's like 290 pounds, or at least he was. That is a clear sign of, we script this contract, we don't like him, but we're paying him so much money, we got to try something here. Seattle were to save $11.5 million with a post-June 1st trade. They cannot cut him with the way his contract is guaranteed. It's not doable there. He got a big fat contract last offseason. If I were Dallas, I would not be paying 2 years, $28 million for him after he didn't have a great season in 2023. If Seattle wants to eat some of that money, I will happily take Treylon Jones. As a rotational 3 technique, I don't think this team has enough horses. I think they are thin at that spot. His numbers dropped off fairly significantly. I thought he kind of got overpaid from coming from Denver to Seattle, by the way, in 2023. But I think interest there, if Seattle eats the money, could actually make some sense. All right, running backs. We won't spend too much time on this because we've spent so much time on it as is. I'm going to pick my 2 favorite ones of like the dozen guys we've discussed here on the channel. I begin with Khalil Herbert. 1-year deal, owed $1 million, and has shown more the past 2 years than about 90% of the guys on your roster from a game-to-game basis have. Herbert, as an early down runner, offers value. He's not a great pass protector. The Bears didn't trust him in pass catching very often either. Good news. You have those guys who can do that. Dowdle, Zeke, and even Deuce Vaughn. Those things are doable for you. So I think Herbert in a committee is a really good fit for what the Cowboys lack right now at the running back spot. Trade targets is something we have done for the running back room overall already. I got 10 names on that list, more in depth. You can check out that video. It is available on the channel. And if the Cowboys make a trade, we will have you covered. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV, for more free Dallas Cowboys YouTube videos. Another cheap option who I think, again, fits that rotation theory pretty well is Israel Abanikanda out of, or from the Jets with, I think there's like a weird thing going on. Like his traps aren't actually that huge. But he's a very physical build and offers the speed this team does not offer, or does not have, I should say. Israel Abanikanda was a big play threat at Pitt, offered some big-time juice as well, some speed that you just don't have on this roster. He's in that 216-ish range, by the way, from an athletic perspective, and tested impressively well. He's got legitimate track speed. I mean, he offers the speed that this team really, really does not have. And I think that would be an intriguing fit for Dallas. Plus, I liked him quite a bit coming out. I like the athletic ability that he offers in that 4.4, 4.3 range there speed-wise. I think he'd be a good committee fit for the running back room. So will the Cowboys trade for a running back? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and get those predictions in for me in the comments section of today's video. I'll mention a couple linebackers. I think they're in better spots than what they are now. Malcolm Rodriguez. He flashed in 2020 for Detroit and then kind of got buried on the depth chart. Dallas did like him coming out. In fact, had he been on the board when they took Devin Harper all those years ago, I think Rodriguez would have been the pick. I think the Cowboys kind of got sniped a little bit there. You don't owe him anything. 2 years, just over $2 million. Like, you trade for him, and relative to the rule of 51 salary cap for the offseason, you're paying an additional $400,000, if that. He's got 100 career tackles, by the way, 8 TFLs. He just kind of got buried on a Lions team that maybe even overinvested in the linebacker room. So I would have some interest there because at minimum, I feel so much better about my linebacker 5, if not my linebacker 4 and 3 for the Dallas Cowboys. I'll make note of Jamin Davis here. Look, the Commanders have added multiple linebackers because, again, it wasn't a Dan Quinn thing that he didn't want linebackers. It was that the Cowboys front office didn't want to do it that way. They've added Frankie Luvo. They added Bobby Wagner. They signed Mykal Walker, who was a Dan Quinn guy. They drafted Jordan McGee in the 5th, and they still have Jamin Davis. Like, he's got 1 year left on his deal. They declined the 5th-year option. I think he's available. Now, I think he's more of a weak side linebacker. You might think you're in okay shape because you already have DeMarvion Overshown in that role, but Davis didn't play that much last year. He's never produced in the way that he was expected to as a first-round pick. So if you can go with the old, I call it the Will McClay special, right? Early round pick, didn't play that great. Let's see if a change of scenery helps. Normally, a pretty cheap cost at that, mind you. What do you think is the biggest need left for the Cowboys? Sound off for me in the comments section of today's show. Let's put a big fish out there. About Budda Baker. I don't know if safety is even a need for this team because you have 3 guys you can play, plus Wanye Thomas. I think you're in good shape there. But if you wanted to go for the big splash addition on defense, which you didn't really do this offseason, maybe you give Arizona a call about Budda Baker. He's looking for a new deal. He's been in trade rumors / trade demands, etc. Like, I think that is something to consider. And he would be an instant impact player, I think, giving you the type of chess piece safety that Mike Zimmer typically likes at that position. I would also caution, he's played in fewer games each of the past 2 seasons. His impact play numbers have gone down a little bit as well, and he might be too expensive for this team. I know his eyes lit up when he saw that Antoine Winfield deal. He ain't going to get the Winfield deal, but it did raise the bar, I think. One more name I haven't seen really anybody else mention. I don't think we should sleep on Lewis Cine. That is the safety from Minnesota. When the Cowboys took Tyler Smith, when they leaked that draft board, or their draft board, quote unquote, Lewis Cine was rated above Tyler Smith. He was the only player on the board the Cowboys had as a first-round grade above Tyler Smith. Nobody else, it was Cine. Lewis Cine was the top-rated guy left. In part because of injuries, he has not played for Minnesota. He's got 10 games with 1 tackle. A player the front office liked years ago who could potentially be a buy low piece to improve their back end. For a guy they loved coming out, I think that one should not be overlooked.